So I'll just start off early morning hours of May 23rd, which was Memorial Day weekend. Portsmouth Fire and Police Department responded to and investigated an arson fire at 155 Parrott Avenue, the Portsmouth Middle School. The New Hampshire State Fire Marshal's Office, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms assisted with our on-scene investigation. Further follow-up by the Portsmouth Police Investigative Division revealed that a male had launched a canoe in the town of Kittery sometime after midnight and paddled to Portsmouth, where he docked on a South End pier. The male proceeded from there on foot to the middle school, carrying a propane tank and a bucket of liquid flammable. Just after 3 a.m., the male is seen on surveillance video smashing out the front window of the school and placing the propane bucket inside the lobby before lighting them on fire. The male then fled the area back to the canoe. Hampton police had an interaction with this male a little later on in the day, canoeing in the ocean off the beach. And subsequent to that, the male was arrested in Rye for criminal trespass, disorderly conduct, and breach of bail. An ongoing investigation, basically around the clock, from the Portsmouth Police Investigative Division resulted in the arrest of Christopher M. Berger, B-E-R-G-E-R. His age is 24. Presently, he has no fixed address. He will be charged with arson, a Class A felony, possession of an infernal machine, which is a Class A felony, reckless conduct, a Class B felony, breach of bail, which is a Class A misdemeanor, and burglary?
Yeah, those charges.
And burglary as well. So I'm going to let the fire chief talk a little bit about what they encountered when they got to the school, and then Captain Sargent and I will be available to answer any other questions.
Could you read the charges again, please?
Sure.
Actually,
Arson, breach of bail, burglary.
there was a slight change to that right before this came out, so it's going to be the arson Class A felony, it's going to be burglary Class A felony, and then the possession of an
Infernal machine.
Infernal machine?
Yeah.
Machine, Class A felony.
Possession? That's a felony?
Class A felony.
And reckless conduct?
No reckless conduct, but breach of bail, which is a Class A misdemeanor. After,
Do you know what the substance was in the bucket, or am I out of turn?
I'll let the chief answer that. We believe it to be gasoline. It was just a flammable liquid, but we believe it to be gasoline.
There's still some testing being done at the lab with the assistance of ATF and the State Fire Marshal's Office. They have access to quicker testing than we would. It is believed, as the chief indicated, to be gasoline, but we're not going to come out and say that until it's confirmed.
Have you got the microphone when you guys
Go ahead,
talk?
Todd.
Sure.
Whichever. Okay. It's Chief Todd Germain. Chief, what can you tell us about what you guys
We
saw?
responded to a fire alarm activation at the school at a little after 3 in the morning, and our units arrived to find the fire conditions in the front foyer area of the middle school. The sprinklers had activated and knocked it down to a pretty good level at that point. We finished extinguishing the fire inside the foyer and found the burned up 20-pound propane tank in there. We're certainly thankful that the pressure relief system on that tank activated as it was supposed to, because it did get hot enough to ventilate and release pressure. If that hadn't happened, the tank would have exploded, and it would have been a serious issue at that point. To the chief's remarks, the coordination between the police department and ATF, the State Fire Marshal's Office, and the fire department investigations unit, and by all means the help of the public with surveillance videos and so on throughout the city, we're able to bring this issue to a close within a week, which is certainly a win for everybody. So.
Now, what kind of damage was done that you could see in the school, and describe again kind of what the materials were that were used?
So we believe, again, the investigation as far as the content or the materials are still underway, but we believe he used gasoline, poured the gasoline inside he smashed out a window, put the propane tank inside the doorway, poured gasoline around that, and lit that on fire. The damage to the school, thanks to the sprinklers and the quick response by the fire department, was limited to mostly smoke and a little bit of heat damage inside the foyer, along with water damage from the sprinkler heads.
And you said that there was something that was a relief valve. Would
The propane tanks are designed to, when they're overheated, to release the pressure of the tank so as not to explode. So we know by surveillance video that happened, that it did release the pressure, and so it kept it from exploding. Fortunately for our incoming crews, the first arriving units would have been there around the time a tank would have exploded if that mechanism had failed.
What else we could ask about the damage, because that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Some water damage too?
There's some water damage from the sprinkler heads. Yeah.
Can you explain again what you've seen in surveillance video, and is that how you know that he made the canoe trip over and then carried it across? Like, is that what do you see in this chunks of
Yeah, so the first piece of evidence that we had was the surveillance from the school, a couple different angles. There was a camera inside, a camera outside. So we were able to see that it was a younger male individual who appeared to be working alone. And then what really kind of sparked the investigation off into the right direction was we had a couple officers in-house here that viewed the video, and they said, geez, that really looks like the guy we arrested last night. Although the video was not clear enough to see facial, he was running, his physical characteristics and some other things led the officers to believe that that was a gentleman who we had just arrested the day before. There was an incident where a vehicle went up Congress Street the wrong way, stopped, smashed out a business window with a small bat, and then led us on a pursuit into Newington, where he was taken into custody. So he was taken into custody on that incident and brought to the Rockingham County Jail. He got out somewhere late at night, and then this kind of kicked off early in the morning. So we knew the timeline was possible. So he was our prime suspect just based on the officers saying, I think it's worth looking at him. And then so from there we just kind of, we sought the public's attention as far as home surveillance systems, and we pulled all kinds of surveillance from, whether it be residences or businesses in the area. And we were able to put a nice little timeline together and kind of see the individual enter Portsmouth on a canoe, docked in Portsmouth, cased the area for a little while, went back to the canoe, disembarked the canoe again, this time with his tools, being the flammable liquid and the propane, and then right to the school, and then back to the canoe.
He had them with him in the canoe?
Yeah, that's the way it appears. It appears that they were with him from the beginning, although there was a possibility that he stopped somewhere in Portsmouth from his canoe ride over from, we suspect, from Maine. But what we know for sure is they came off the canoe with him at a particular hour.
At Bennett's, was it bad? Did he get out and do it by hand?
Yeah, he threw it through the window. Threw it through the window.
Through it.
And you mentioned it had nails in it?
That's what the officer's report said.
Chunk
But
of
the
wood with
back
some
had-
nails in it.
Yeah, the back had nails in it?
The night before.
From the incident.
The night before
event.
incident, correct.
So what were the charges that he faced on that, and then he just...
Well, he had some charges.
Down to the jail?
Yeah, he had some charges for both Portsmouth and Newington, because in Newington, that's where the pursuit ended. That's where he resisted arrest. That's where he, it appeared that he might have intentionally struck a car to end the pursuit. So our charges, of course, are driving the wrong way on Congress Street, and then the criminal mischief, and then disobeying an officer from taking off. We have a handful of charges on that as well.
And that was how many hours before you put him at the middle school?
Less than 24, less than
All
12.
of that happened. He's taken to jail. Didn't spend much time in jail. How does that work?
Bail reform.
Is that what it is?
That's exactly what it is, bail reform. And then he dealt with total of four police agencies in that time. Actually 5. Portsmouth, Newington. The next day, Portsmouth,
Hampton.
Hampton, and Rye. And the state police.
Right, because he got away with this for a while. So purportedly, he goes back to wherever he came from in his canoe, and then what did he do before he
Yeah, so it wasn't long. Well, I shouldn't say it wasn't long. It was the following day, or later that day, I should say, where Hampton police took some reports of somebody canoeing just off the beach, and he had capsized a few times, so it generated some calls in Hampton. They ended up taking his canoe into safekeeping. I'm not really sure what the arrangement in Hampton was. So then he skateboarded down Route 1 back northbound, and that's where he did whatever he did in Rye to bring on more charges.
So he's in jail now.
Yes.
He's in jail now. He was in jail ever since the Rye incident because one of the charges was breach of bail from our charge the night before. And then their prosecutor was able to successfully argue dangerousness to keep him detained until another hearing.
Do you know if he has a lawyer?
I'm not sure if he does at this point. His family's been cooperative. People, the citizens around have been cooperative. We expect him to be arraigned tomorrow. He was arrested at the jail within this past hour. We'll send out a press release with a photo. I'm not sure who he has, if anybody, representing him at this time.
Is
You know-
his name Christoph?
Christoph. Christopher without the ER.
Oh, no R, okay.
Without the ER, correct.
And you said he's got no known address?
So he was originally from this area, from what we're told, but then he left to go to another state, and then he just recently came back to visit family. So he does not have a fixed address anywhere that we're aware of. Certainly not in the Portsmouth area.
If I could just bring one thing up, folks talk about community policing, and in light of recent events across the country, the cooperation that we got from the business community and the public, and many of our citizens, when Captain Sargent sent out a press release relative to, can you please check your personal videos, personal home security cameras, check and see if you're missing propane, anything like that. The cooperation that we've gotten from the citizens in Portsmouth and our businesses in Portsmouth has been phenomenal. And that's what community policing is. Police working with the community and the community working with the police. And I just think it can't be overstated, the type of cooperation we got from the citizens here in Portsmouth, which helped us every step of the way.
He sounds like a pretty dangerous guy in that each of the things that he did put lives in jeopardy. Is there a concern about him sort of reoffending so close?
Yeah, so we're looking at, there's obviously all issues. One of the things we talk about is a person obviously in crisis here. This was, as the captain said, less than a 24-hour period. It was actually less than a 12-hour period for us, and then less than 24 hours involving the other 3 police agencies. So we're looking at issues of person in crisis, which have come up repeatedly during this pandemic.
Manager, does the insurance company look at this yet? Are we still at 100,000 estimate damage? Obviously, we gotta fix the school.
The insurance company has looked at it. They have not commented about whether the estimate and the actual are far off from that initial number. But they were contacted immediately.
What does the mayor have to say?
Oh, as far as I'm concerned, we've got the top guys here in Portsmouth. Police department has always been there. We've got a great leader at the helm. Wouldn't want to have anybody else there. And as far as with the, I was a huge advocate for the fire department when we went looking for a new chief, and I knew Todd was going to be the man. So as far as I'm concerned, Portsmouth has exactly what it needs.
I don't know, Chief, I don't mean to shift gears, but it doesn't necessarily mean shifting gears. It's staying in with what the mayor said. Do you want to comment on the kinds of, you had made comments, put out a statement in the department with all that was going on in Minneapolis, and then what's all of the subsequent issues. Do you want to sort of address?
Well, I think some of the tragedy is with the riotous behavior that's taken place is this is the first time in my career of 38, 39 years doing this that immediate response from police chiefs, police unions, police officers, no one felt that the action taken by the officer in Minneapolis was lawful or justified. It was unified response across the country. We're all part of various police agencies. The Fraternal Order of Police came out, the union, immediately. Everybody came out and said what happened was wrong. The sad part is that some of these groups that have decided to turn what was a unified response by peaceful protesters into something ugly is taking away from what's happened. The police have made huge gains across the country in police community relations and training, de-escalation, bias training, all of the above. And then you have these traveling riotous groups that have taken the peaceful protest, the right to peacefully protest by people, and turned it into something ugly.
Anybody else have anything to say about it?
Well, I just want to thank the media for their patience. I know I got a lot of inquiries during this investigation. I want to thank my investigators. They lost some days off working diligently on this case. I can't even begin to tell you how many hours went into interviews and canvassing shorelines and different pieces of property and just a ton of work. The fire department put together an amazing report. Their investigators were exceptional. The state fire marshals and the ATF came right out. They were on scene very quickly. They helped, they get some resources that we don't have, and I just want to thank everybody that was involved.
And I want to make sure I have the timeline right. So he had done the stuff downtown at smashed through the window at Bennett's on Friday
Correct.
Approximately 5:30, 6 o'clock Friday evening.
evening. Does the car chase into Newington, gets sent to the jail, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, he's back lighting the fire. So that was actually not even 6 hours. I mean,
Yeah, I said within 24 hours. It's closer to within 6 or 8.
and then, because he fled and got away, he was then wreaking havoc
Hampton,
down the coast.
Rye, Route 1.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Hopefully it started and ended here in Portsmouth.
And I just want to add that the way he set that fire up, there's a very real potential for a violent explosion that would damage obviously the school greatly and probably cost firefighters lives. So we're thankful that there were no injuries reported, no injuries happened, everyone walked home and went home safe from that incident.